the construction trades industry. You're our partner. You're our private sector partner in making this program successful. The more business it's brought in, creates that revenue opportunity, creates those actual contractual assessments that are on the property tax bill over a term that allow us to refresh and reinvest money to keep the program going long term. That's how we create that multiplier effect. That's how we create a stable long-term program. How does it work? Participant submits their application to us. We review the application. It's approved. Homeowner has approval. They then work with their chosen contractors to complete the work, submit a request for repayment to us. Then we verify that that work has been completed. That triggers two things: a payment back to the participant to cover the costs of the installations, and we place an assessment lien on the property tax bill of that participant. It's open to all residential, all business customers, as well as industry, agriculture as well, for things, for example, water conservation measures, as well as solarization of agricultural warehouses, etc. And ultimately that lien then is how you pay back, how the participant pays back the money that the county has lent out. There are different life cycles of assessments based on, as you know, your average windows may last a certain period. An HVAC system may last a different lifespan. Solar panels are going to last another lifespan. A low-flow toilet's going to have a different lifespan. Well, the state and federal government has registers for the anticipated life of all of those improvements. So the program has matching terms for all those improvements: a 5-year term, a 10-year term, 15-year term, and a 20-year term. So we match the life of the package of improvements that's being installed on that home or business to the life of those improvements, so that your contractual assessment, your repayment on your property taxes, is amortized on one of those respective terms. Now there's some benefits to each of those terms, obviously longer repayment, lower payment, but on the short terms we're going to offer more attractive financing. There's going to be lower interest rates. And this gets to the concept of being able to do phased packages or phased improvement sets, such that you might go and be able to offer a package of simple energy efficiency upgrades that have a 5-year term that are paid back very quickly. And that package of improvements may also help qualify residents or businesses to show that there's been a 10% energy savings accrued that will allow them to finance the solar portion of it. So the point being, you don't have, this isn't a one-shot opportunity. You can do multiple assessments over time to that property. Cumulatively, they all add up to that $75,000 threshold for residences, $250,000 for commercial. Some of you are probably saying, certainly the solar contractors are going to say, well, $250,000 isn't a lot of money for a solar array on a large industrial warehouse. That's true. We, in the long run, in order for the program to be stable, in order to attract the long-term third-party bond market, we need to have sufficient diversification in the types of assessments and in the number of assessments that we have. So initially, we've capped that at $250,000. In the long run, we'd like to be able to offer custom track packages, large packages that will allow for large-scale solar arrays on industrial property or significant contributions in the water conservation area as well. So we recognize that the max may not necessarily or may not express what's actually needed to produce the most efficient system, but we're going to try to allow our program to scale up over time based on the demand and interest.
Does that mean, David, that then the owner could just find another source?
Absolutely, and that's really the beauty of this program. It's a complementary source of financing. We know why does this law exist in the first place, and what allows us to actually do this program. It's a recognition by the state and the federal government that retrofits, energy efficiency improvements, the installation of renewables, water conservation measures isn't happening at a rate that is expected or desired by the state and federal governments and some local governments as well. So this is a way to offer ultimately that financing. It could be thought of as gap financing, it could be thought of as complementary financing, but it's market rate competitive financing, and I'll talk about those rates, but it is something that can add on to traditional lines of credit, a home equity line of credit, second, the tax rebate programs, the California Solar Initiative programs, and then two other programs, both the state of California, which you may be aware is ready to roll out the largest retrofit program in state history called the Whole House Retrofit Program. It's an extension of the economic stimulus bill. And the federal government is in the process of rolling out a program called the Homestar Program, which is one of the largest federal incentive programs in this area in the history. So there's a number of these programs that help lower the cost of the total package of improvements, as well as provide complementary sources of financing, low interest loans from some of the utility companies, and then direct subsidies, rebates, credits, et cetera. Next slide. And then again, that's fine. Next slide. So who's eligible? And what kind of projects are we expecting? Well, first off, the property has to be within Santa Barbara County. It's county limited. We drew a boundary map as a part of this legal and legislative process. That again, if you're in the unincorporated area or any of the 8 cities, which there is no jurisdiction here, there's no property that doesn't qualify for this program on face value because of a geographic limitation. There are underwriting criteria and qualifications that are listed here. The title has to be free and clear. There can't be any liens on the property other than existing liens that are associated with the taxes. You have to be current on your property taxes. Can't be any defaults or delinquencies on the property. No recent bankruptcy or foreclosure of the individuals. There needs to be a 10-to-1 lien to value ratio, meaning that's just a basic threshold. The value of that property, you can only qualify for an assessment package that's up to 10% of that total value. Can't be any underwater properties. That's key. That excludes a number of properties, which for risk factors, it's not going to make sense. That may necessarily be some of the improvements that are necessary to make that property more attractive, but if it's underwater, it doesn't qualify. Current on all mortgages, and again, the minimum $2,500 and board approval required for anything over $100,000. You'll notice up here, there's a lot of discussion about being tied to property. This is a program that runs with the property. It's the unique aspect, one of the unique aspects of why local government can do this. Well, we're the only ones that can levy assessments on tax bills. We're the only ones that have access to the state and federal money that's used to support these programs. And 3, we, through that process, are focusing on the property itself. These assessments run with the property, meaning it's not tied to the income or the financial characteristics of the participants. What we're interested in is increasing the longevity, the quality of those properties. So if you were to sell a home, if you participate in this, you sell a home or business, the assessments and the cost of those assessments is passed on to the next buyer. Certainly it's a contractual relationship. If the lien is required to be paid off at the time of sale, then that's a term and condition of that contract. But ultimately you're paying for, it's a pay-as-you-go system. You're paying for the portion of the improvements, the life of the improvements, while you're in that structure. That ultimately covers that issue of I'm never going to recoup the cost of doing a remodel or a retrofit that involves energy efficiency, water conservation, or renewable upgrades. So instead of making that upfront investment, you're simply just paying for it, and future owners of that property will pay for the remainder of it should you choose to leave that structure and move to another one. Examples of eligible improvements. Attic wall insulation, radiant barriers in roofs, cool roofs, duct repair, lighting controls, HVAC systems. I have a stack of early materials. There's some refrigerator magnets, which are all welcome to take, and then a quad fold brochure. See, some of you have it. This has a list of the eligible improvements as well. And this is not exclusive. What I would refer you to is a program report, and we've brought some copies of that today. This is the official legislative document of the provisions of the program, and then we have copies up here in the appendix to this report of the full list of eligible improvements. It's pretty extensive. We also have a custom track